Hey everybody, Brian Shannon here from AlphaTrends.net. Today is Friday, the 12th of September, 2025, and it was a good week for the markets. We did see a little underperformance from the Russell 2000 and the biotechs, which is surprising to a lot of people who think that lower interest rates mean that the Russell 2000 must go higher. It isn't that way, but only price pays here. The strongest performance was the semiconductors, and of course we had Bitcoin and Ethereum having large week. So let's take a look at these charts and make some sense of it. We'll start with the S&P 500, and the pattern of higher highs and higher lows remains intact. We have seen that each of these pullbacks, whether they've held the 20-day moving average or not, have been bought. More important has been the anchor points, and we'll put an anchor right here, and we can see that is where the buyers were found along that anchor. And now we're getting a little bit extended here. We've been extended for the last couple days. It doesn't mean the market can't go higher, but with today's very slight pullback, it indicates that maybe we're going to see some profit taking next week. It wouldn't come as a surprise. We have the Fed next week, so maybe this is buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing. Either way, if you're looking at this as a market that's extended and in need of a pullback, I don't necessarily think it's a good idea to short it because we're above a 5-day moving average. We're above a 20-day moving average. We're above a 50-day moving average and 200-day moving average. Momentum is higher, and if you want to fight it by selling short, that's not the way I look at markets. I'm a trend trader. I want to buy strength after a pullback and then not chase markets and put myself in too much risk. So if we pull back next week, then I think you want to take a look at, of course, that 5-day moving average as a first level of where buyers might show up. And if we get a little bit deeper pullback, keep an eye on this blue anchor. That's the month-to-date anchored VWAP, and that will bring it in maybe about 650-ish if we do see it pull back. And one step at a time, we'll see how it handles those levels before we start thinking about bigger pullbacks. Let's take a look at crypto so I don't forget. Bitcoin did exactly what I was hoping it would, as I told Alpha Trend subscribers right here on, I believe that was Wednesday. I said now's a good time to buy some. It looks like it's building the energy for a break past this little band of resistance and the anchor from the all-time high, and that's where we are now. So we're seeing a beautiful run off of that. Ethereum is also continuing to move higher. This is my third largest position in terms of the cryptos. Bitcoin is my second. My largest position I've been talking about is Solana, SOL here, and this one I'm not touching it. It continues to behave well. If you look at the weekly chart on this, well, let me just rescale that. Then it looks like we're probably headed for a new high in Solana. And then Litecoin, I purchased a little bit of this today. So right around this general area, that's my smallest position in crypto. But Litecoin looks like it might be making a run for the anchor from the high, which is right up around that 135-ish level for now. That would be the first level where I think it can get going, and then we'll see how it behaves up there. Anyways, back to equities. And by the way, if you missed last week's video, it's because I didn't post it publicly, but I post it every single day for Alpha Trend subscribers on alphatrends.net or just for $10 a month on Twitter. And speaking of Twitter, I just wrote this article with Kina Kosling here about the 6 pillars of price action. And this has gotten some great response. You'll learn something from it, I promise. This article, take the opportunity to go over to Twitter at Alpha Trends and check that article out. A lot of great feedback on that. Thank you for those people who did provide feedback. Anyways, back to the NASDAQ. We broke to a new all-time high here today, past this level, and the pattern remains higher highs and higher lows. Now, our most recent relevant higher low is right over here at 578.5-ish. So some pullback down towards that level, even towards the 5-day moving average, wouldn't be a bad thing. Who knows if it's going to do this or if we're going to see a deeper pullback down towards the month to date would be the level I would say keep a closer eye on for now. If we break down a little bit further, that is. Russell 2000, it's just, as I've been telling Alpha Trump subscribers, it's been in a beautiful uptrend here. So, you can't look at it and say, well, it underperformed this week. And it did, but still, that's a beautiful uptrend. If you take something like the Adams Pitchfork, which is a tool I don't really use, but it kind of defines the trend here. And you can see it's just been in this beautiful uptrend here since the April low, where it really kicked into gear in mid-May. And it's a pattern of higher highs and higher lows. The problem is it trades too erratically for me. So I personally don't like to trade this. Doesn't mean you can't trade it and make money, of course. And people who've bought it and held are doing great with it. So I just don't find it to be the most tradable market. But it does look like it's still reaching for these all-time highs here. And when you look at that, is that, some people will say, hey, that's a big cup and handle. If it breaks out, it should be able to continue to go. I would say be careful because it's had this big rally, and if it breaks out, it probably needs to digest the gains a little bit through time at least, if not maybe a deeper price correction. But the bottom line is it is a bullish environment here for the Russell 2000, and know where your stop is in case we see a deeper pullback. But the month-to-date anchor is a level in this market I would also say keep an eye on if we start to pull back next week. Big week for semiconductors. I've been pointing out to the last few rallies how we've seen these real nice rallies, and each of these rallies has failed pretty quickly. Doesn't mean I'm predicting this, because right now we still have a pattern of higher highs and higher lows above this rising 5-day moving average. So it would be foolish to look to short this thing. But if it breaks down and starts to move lower, then perhaps it's going to see a deeper pullback the way it did the last 3 times. And you just have a plan for it is the only point of mentioning that. We're in a primary uptrend. The market held the rising 20-day moving average. Then as the trend matured, it went sideways a little bit, corrected to the 50-day moving average, and we're still in a primary uptrend. So there's nothing bearish going on here. Just be aware of what's possible and manage risk according to your time frame. If you're concerned that, hey, maybe we pull back down under 300 towards that new 295 level at the month-to-date anchor, then that's 10 points. Maybe that means something to you. Maybe it means nothing at all. As a swing trader, I would want to avoid that. So I would say I would raise my stop up under one of these higher lows. They're very easy to define, the higher lows above these rising 5-day moving averages. It breaks below here. It doesn't mean it's going to just, crash or, even come down hard like this. It means it would begin at least a time correction and then perhaps get stuck below the 5-day moving average and start to see a little bit deeper price correction. The biotechs, as mentioned, they had a little bit of underperformance this week, but same as the Russell 2000. They've been in, and we could do that same Adams pitchfork thing here, and it broke the higher end of that range, so maybe it needs to come into here back towards the midpoint of this range before its next move higher. The weekly chart, we've mentioned this over and over again that this was a big level, so maybe this will turn back to support now in here if we pull back. Either way, the biotechs, trading individual names is one thing, but this group, the index, be careful at about 93.60-ish or so. If we break below there and hold below there, then perhaps we're going to see a little bit deeper selling. Financial stocks closing in on that all-time high, and same thing, they were in a nice uptrend. Bonds had a good week, and we saw a little bit of weakness here today, but back above the anchor from this high, back above the 200-day moving average. That tells us the buyers have regained control. We're a little bit extended here on the short term, so maybe some pullback next week wouldn't be a bad thing. And same story, the market, why did the market go up? Because it's expecting the Fed to cut rates. And as the Fed cuts rates, then bonds probably sell off and yields start to rise again. That's the way it always seems to be, is that the market corrects the yields first. The 10-year went from 430 to 405, so dropped 25 basis points in terms of the yield. And when and if they cut rates next week, they'll probably rally up to here and then perhaps drop down. So the inverse, of course, is always true for the TLT that pulls back down here and then perhaps begins to rally. But let's take a look at some individual stocks. Apple kind of had a screwy week. They report they had their new phone. No one seemed to really care too much. But we do still have a higher low here. This week's low looks like a higher low on the daily time frame. The Palantir got going here. I was surprised with the strength in a couple of these mega caps. Palantir, I kind of thought was going to pull back down in here and then get going. And Tesla really surprised me. I was hoping we got a pullback in here today. I was busy, fortunately, with other winners, but did not participate in Tesla. This is a great breakout right here, obviously. And there's nothing here to suggest it shouldn't continue up towards that 400, 450 level even. Amazon broke down, and that was one that I was in. I exited over here. Netflix also broke down. I was involved in that one and exited on this day below the 5-minute low right in here, and that was a great exit. It's you don't want to see stocks fall apart, but it's always nice, when you get out of the trade to see that you did the right thing and take the very small loss. In fact, it was only an $8 loss on average in here. Fortunately, I took a third off on strength, but this looked like a breakout, and from that failed move came a fast move in the opposite direction. So Netflix is going to need to settle down for a little bit. I also took a small loss in Intel. I don't even know why I was in this company. It just never seems to really do anything. And look how erratic it is. This is not the personality of a stock that suits me. This thing is just schizo. So I don't know what I was thinking with that one. If you followed me on Tuesday on Trader TV, I'd mentioned that I liked the way that the quantum stocks were setting up. I mentioned in particular RGTI, that was up 14% today. So when you have a stock up 14%, you don't mind missing out on a stock that's up 7%. IONQ I'd mentioned on Tuesday as well, and that had a big move. So follow me on Twitter, and you'll get a lot more information. And if you want this information daily, it's, like I said, just $10 a month over there. Have a good weekend, everyone.